Now the T20 series is live on talkSPORT 2. So you had one yesterday, Sam Curran getting that hat-trick. There'll be another one tomorrow. Let's talk to Cameron Ponsonby, who is from The Athletic and is out in Candy. Hey, Cameron, how are you?
Hello again, guys. Good to speak to you. Good to see you across the internet, across Zoom.
Did you get to go home at all? Like, have you had any time at home? Do you still know your friends?
He's traveling the world. He's living his dream. He's fine, Max. Let him be.
Charlie's correct. 5 days in home time. There was an amazing period where I think it was 102 days away from home and seen 2 England wins. Yeah. But we're now up to 4. So that's fine, or maybe even 5 actually. Right. So
what is home? Home is just a state of mind.
What does home mean? Oh, I see. Is it like that? Is it?
Home is where the bilateral series is. Oh. Home is where England are playing white ball cricket.
Famously, as they say.
That's how the song goes, isn't it? You're right. So look, should we talk about Harry Brook not being a grass? I mean, the best ever not being a grass is that person that tweeted, I had a terrible sandwich from Tesco, and then Tesco replied going, can you tell us which one? And this Scottish guy went, I'm near grass. I'm not going to tell you. But on that level, where does Harry Brook, how do you feel about what's happened?
So I was in the press conference last week and asked Brook if he was by himself, and he came back and he was like, yeah, by myself. And you're like, I know that's not true. I know you're quite
sadly out on his own in a nightclub on his own.
There aren't many places where I can relate to these international cricketers because their skills or whatever. But looking at a bloke who's roughly my age, say, yeah, I was out with my mates having beers and then they all went home and I decided to have more by myself when I had work the next day. I was like, come on, mate, fine, whatever. And I think it's an example of where the headline is not the story here. So Brook, I think people would actually applaud him for not dobbing his mates in more than anything. I think it's the behaviour almost to be encouraged. But it goes back to the point where England, the management have never decided when to take their medicine with this story. And so it just carries on. So because England, they didn't reveal it at the time. And I understand that it was a judgment call. It's on the eve of the Ashes. Do you want this enormous story breaking where Australia are going to go mad for it? But then as soon as the story was out there was an opportunity to say, yep, we've slapped Brook Bethel tongue with a fine. We've moved on. We've cleaned our hands of it. But instead, it's rumbling on and on. And I think it reflects worse on kind of Rob Key, the managing director, who said to the press in Melbourne, all the way back at Boxing Day, that in relation to that specific night in Wellington, no formal action had been taken against the players. We haven't had any disciplinary issues in the last 4 years, and that just simply wasn't true. And it's one thing for when a peer is not dobbing in his mates. It's another thing for when the bosses are saying something that's not true. Yeah. And just to cover talkSPORT's back here, England say in regards to that, that they were talking about the social media video. There was a video of the England lads out having a beer, and they were saying we're talking about that in particular, and not what happened later on in the night. But we can talk off air about how realistic that viewpoint is.
Let's just get to the hat trick yesterday. What I particularly liked about about the hat trick was this: I was listening to the Hawksby and Jacobs show on in the afternoon, which is a very, very good radio show.
Great show.
And
they're good. They're good.
Andy were on, and that's always the best days. And Andy was saying, "Well, I've just watched Sam Curran's second over, and it was even worse than his first, if that can be possible." And then he went and got a hat trick, which was exciting because Andy really knows his cricket. So it's great. And I really like Sam Curran. I'm a big supporter of Sam Curran. I think he should be in the test team. I think he's got great energy, and I love the guy.
This is what's weird, is that England off the pitch at the moment, absolute mess. England on the pitch, they're kind of getting their act together. I know kind of beating Sri Lanka in a one-day series just after an Ashes and just before a T20 World Cup is about as off-Broadway as you can kind of get. But Sri Lanka hadn't lost at home in 5 years. England have been quite bad in ODI cricket. And so that's actually a really positive result. And then in the T20 game, you've got a really exciting batting lineup with Phil Salt, Jacob Bethel, Brook, Joss Buttler. You've got 2 brilliant spinners, well, 1 brilliant spinner and 1 very good spinner in Adil Rashid and Liam Dawson. And then Sam Curran. Sam Curran, I'm with you, Charlie. he's not necessarily like the fans' favourite or most popular cricketer in the world or the most trendy cricketer in the world, but he's batted 3 in the IPL and opened the bowling in Test cricket.
Yeah.
And there's very, very few cricketers in the world who can lay claim to those two skill sets. I get annoyed though when cricketers do something which give them a reason to then continue talking about not getting too high or too low. Because I always think that's the most boring line in history. It's like, I just want to stay very level. Because Sam Curran had a terrible day. He'd been whacked everywhere. And in the last 3 balls he had in the match, he took wickets for all 3 of them, became only the second England men's player to take a hat-trick. And so now I just know the next time I interview him, he'll be like, well, I just want to get too high and too low. Things can change very quickly. I was like, let's celebrate the hat-trick. It's cool. It's exciting.
I'll tell you why I don't like Sam Curran.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
He exudes so much youth. Like, he's so springy and bouncy and young. And he just makes me feel every day of the 46 years old that I am.
Oh, this is your problem. This isn't Sam Curran's problem.
You could
You've got to look inside yourself here.
Max, an anecdote you won't like in that context.
Okay, yeah, please.
So Sam Curran first played for Surrey when I think he was 17 years old, 16, 17 years old. And the story of the guys who worked at the Oval is that it'd be a Thursday night, 25,000 people would be arriving at the Oval, including Sam Curran in his school uniform. He'd be coming straight from school and waltzing out to play cricket.
Yeah,
and he's been around for a decade. And he still looks so.
Just be happy for him, Max.
No, I'm happy for him. You're right. It is my problem, but like you brought up Sam Curran. I wasn't going to bring him up. Do you just going back to
being
that,
his brother? Imagine being his brother who's like worse than him, just a bit worse.
He's pretty good still, Tommy. Well, I was going to go back to that question about Harry Brook and the drinking culture idea. Like, you're quite close to this. You're traveling with them. Like, is there a massive problem with him just getting larruped all the time, or is that being blown out of proportion? I mean, if I was a cricketer and I was away for so long, I probably would.
I think there's I was doing a Q&A event with Steve Harmison, talkSPORT Steve Harmison, the other day.
Of course, yeah.
And he was like, drinking culture, you should have lined us up 20 years ago. We'd have had all of them. And I think that's kind of the point, in that by 20 years ago, no, there isn't a drinking culture. But by the modern standards of other sports, and again, I would say it's not everyone. In fact, I'd say the vast majority of the players are not big drinkers, but there is a core unit there where I'm acting like it's a secret. We've all seen the videos, we've all seen the photos. I just think you want to come back to the core point that there was a group of England players who were out playing a game the next day, and they're out having a few drinks. Can you imagine if it was an England football match and that was the case?
And I think it'd be cool with it. In a World Cup, that'd be totally fine.
Cool,
there wouldn't be any sort of.
It's a lot easier than football as well, isn't it?
You know what? That's entirely true. That's why I play it. Because not football, I was no good at. I was just imagining, imagine if England football team had a kickoff against Wales at Wembley at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then a video of them doing bottomless brunch came out 9 hours before. There'd be head loss, and the timings wise, it was pretty similar. So
still beat Wales, though, I reckon.
Exactly, and that'd be even better. Harry Kane just waltzing around.
So sorry to ask a serious question, Cameron, but do you think that because we all thought during the Ashes they'd say, look, someone's head will roll because of the performances on the pitch and the lack of preparation, all those kind of things. Now we've sort of had the situation where potentially, official, higher ups are not necessarily telling you the entire truth at press conferences.
Yeah.
Will there be any accountability? Does there need to be? Or should we go, we're actually playing all right T20 World Cup, at the moment, the World Cup is close. We should just keep it as it is because we could win that.
I think you're right with the first bit. So the Telegraph newspaper reported that Rob Key, who's the managing director, was probably safe, and McCullum, who's the head coach, was less safe, basically. And that was the state of play as of a week ago. But I keep on going back to, there's that kind of cliched saying of act strong when you're weak and act weak when you're strong. And I remember Rob Key came into this press conference in Melbourne where the Ashes had been lost in 11 days, a record small amount of time, or joint record. And so you're as weak as you are in that instance. And he was like, yep, we got the preparation wrong, we've got the selection wrong, and we've probably got the execution wrong as well. And I was like, well, hang on, like, what are you going to say in your PowerPoint presentation to your boss? Like, you've got to point to something that's in the positive
Find
column.
something.
And yeah, and then now we have this instance where it's so much easier to talk about from this side of the microphone, as it were, where you're going, well, you got that wrong in hindsight, you got that wrong in hindsight. It's a massive judgment call of when England fessed up to this Harry Brook incident. But the fact of the matter is now we know it's not gone well, and it's gone badly, and it's put Brook in awkward situations where he's had to lie to the press to cover his mates back. Whereas if England had just said, yeah, Bethel and Tongue were out with him as well, slap him on the wrist, then that's nipped in the bud. So now you're kind of like, if you're Rob Key, in my mind at least, you're 4-0 down in terms of like the important things. So I don't see, if he does keep his job, then this is one of the cricket's problems. There's a lot of apathy around it. I'll kind of shrug my shoulders and go, oh, right, so does nothing matter? Okay, then fine. But I think there at least needs to be increased scrutiny and kind of, in my mind, I don't really understand why it's being reported he's safe, to be perfectly honest, but there we go.
Fine. Hey, thanks for coming on, Cameron. Enjoy
Always, thank you.
home, wherever it may be, wherever the bilateral series is.
Wherever the bilateral series
great song
is.
It'll be like Chittagong in 12 months' time. That's the plan.
Exactly, good stuff. Cameron Ponsonby there.
Thanks, Cameron.
Candy. You can hear live and exclusive ball-by-ball commentary of the second T20 between Sri Lanka and England on talkSPORT 2 and the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel from 1 o'clock on Sunday. Always time for time difference, and that will be next.